Hi, my name's Alison Heath, the longevity rescuer and the host of the EMF Summit. It's hard not to get angry. Recently, I developed EHS, which is electromagnetic hypersensitivity. And they're predicting that by the year 2017, 50% of the population will be EHS. They'll be getting sick from the wireless devices that are around us, from the electromagnetic radiation that we're experiencing. The last thing I want to do is be angry. I started interviewing people. I got very curious about what this was all about. For me, I am loving health. I want to be vibrantly healthy. I want to explode with energy and enjoy life to the fullest. And all of a sudden, I wasn't able to do that. I was having all kinds of weird, uncomfortable symptoms. So I started putting together a summit for everyone to have more information, and I started interviewing all kinds of experts. I was so surprised. I thought it was money that was the big driver behind this. I thought the telecommunication industry, they're now bigger, stronger than big pharma. And they have all this lobbying money to control the government, to make the laws the way that they want. But there's one area that I didn't consider, and that is the government itself. When I started reading some of the books that were recommended to me and finding out more, I was absolutely shocked. And I have to admit, I felt angry because we have something called SAR, the standard absorption rate. And this is the rate that is supposed to, the level that's supposed to be put there to protect us. But that's not what's happening. In North America, our rate is so high compared to other countries. I think Australia, Canada, and the United States have the highest in the world. We are definitely not being protected, and we need to be. Our children are going to get ill. We are all going to have some serious problems coming down the road. And when I'm listening to some of the scientists and doctors, what they're saying is this is escalating. We are in for some big trouble. I put together a few slides from one of the scientists. He was an orthopedic surgeon in the United States. He said, the safety standards for electromagnetic radiation, that's EMR, were set higher in the 1950s to allow the military to have unlimited use of EMR technology. At the same time, American science reports suggesting EMR health effects of brain tumors, heart conditions, leukemia, cataracts, and more were ignored. The military was a major source of fundings, and reports were not followed up. The government safety levels for EMR were challenged in courts all around the world. And this comes from a movie, a documentary movie called Opening Pandora's Box. And that aired in 1984 on BBC TV. He was a pioneer in EMF non-thermal research, and he contested the government's suppression of non-thermal bioeffects. The government was saying that it wasn't happening, and he said it was. In his book, that was published in 1990 called Crosscurrents, the Perils of Electropollution, he details why it is in the government's interest not to protect us from low-level electromagnetic radiation. The military organism was designed on the 10 MV standard. And once in place, it had to be defended against the possibility of non-thermal bioeffects. So they put that 10 MW in place, and they couldn't open it up to the fact that non-thermal, what we're getting from our cell phones and so on, isn't dangerous. The recognition and validation of these effects would mean the collapse of the total organism and the death of C-31 for command, control, communications, and intelligence. Evidence for non-thermal effects was viewed as a threat to national security. So you see, it was in their interest
not to protect us. Control
over the scientific establishment was maintained by allocating research funds in such a way as to ensure that only approved projects, that is, projects that would not challenge the thermal effect standard, would be undertaken. In some instances, scientists were told that non-thermal effects did occur, but that national security objectives required that they be exceptionally well established before they became public knowledge. So they didn't want us to know.
all of these reports
Shared certain characteristics. Scientific data indicating non-thermal bioeffects were either ignored or subjected to extensive and destructive review, while a statement such as "there is no evidence for any effects of pulsed magnetic fields on humans" would have been literally true, it would have ignored that many reports of such effects on laboratory animals and the fact that no actual tests had been conducted on humans.
scientists who persisted
In publicly raising the issue of harmful effects from any portion of the electromagnetic spectrum were discredited and their research grants were taken away.
deployment of powerful
And exotic electromagnetic systems continues, with little, if any, consideration given to the potential impact of these systems on the health and safety of the public. This is on page 297 of Crosscurrents, The Perils of Electropollution by Dr. Becker. And that chapter is The Hidden Hand on the Switch, Military Uses of Electromagnetic Spectrum.
evidently our governments have
A vested interest, and still do, in not protecting us, in not raising the level of the protection that we have for wireless in schools, for smart meters rolling out, for cell phones, for all this huge amount of electromagnetic pollution that we're facing. The cell towers are going up constantly, all over the place. It's very hard to escape. And so many people are contacting me since I started doing these videos and interviewing these scientists and putting together this EMF Summit, explaining to me that they're very, very ill and they are refugees from the world because there's very few
places
where they're safe. So this is a real problem. And so many of the physicians are saying that a lot of the tumors and cancers and so on haven't manifested yet because we need 10 years. But we have children on average are being given their first cell phone when they're 9 years old. So by the time they're 19, they've already been using it for 10 years and they have a very thin skull. So this radiation is going right into their brain. It's going right into their saliva glands. It's going into their ear canal. I mean, we need to start taking a good look at this because we can protect ourselves. We can do things ourselves to make it so that we have some avoidance. We can turn off the wireless in our homes and use the old-fashioned Ethernet cable. It exists. So there are many things we can do. We can filter our home. We can shield home. We can make it a safer environment for children. So instead of getting angry, let's get wise. Let's accumulate the knowledge that we need to understand how this is affecting the brain. Understand that the military has been using low-level electromagnetism as biological weapons, as warfare. So they don't necessarily want us to know of the harm that can be done. There would be an awful lot of lawsuits from people that have been subjected to these tests and so on. So be wise. Arm yourself. Join me on the EMF Summit. And together, let's make this the best year yet.